Okay, welcome to Module 1. These are just some supplemental materials, mainly taken from the slides that are already available. I'm just going to talk about a few topics here and there just to hopefully give some extra enlightenment. So first we'll talk about Chapter 1, using operations to create value, then a little bit about Supplement A in Chapter 2, so covering the whole module. So I guess the first thing we need to talk about is operations management, and you can read the definition there, but essentially it's managing the creation of things. So it's taking inputs and then making outputs from them, creating things. This is technical operations management, so what's the difference? Well, really what we want to do is focus on a company that's driven by technology. So Microsoft, Dell, Oracle, those are companies that are driven by technology, and that's what we want to focus on here. So where does operations management fit? So operations is one of the mainline functions of a business. We have operations, finance, and marketing. And you can see here that materials go in, operations takes them, transforms them into outputs, marketing sells them, revenue comes in, finance acquires the money to purchase materials and inputs, and the cycle continues. I do want to point out that while this book does use three mainline functions or core functions of a business, many times human resources is considered a core function as well and not a support function. I'm not going to get into whether it is or not as a debate, just something for you to be aware of. So operations is essentially made up of a lot of processes, and process, again, a single process can be an operation, or it may take multiple processes to be an operation. It is, again, something that takes an input and transforms it to make an output, hopefully adding value along the way. Operations, whether it's one process or many, is about controlling those processes. So it's important to note that, taking a holistic view of it. The book does make a distinction, and I think it's a very real-world distinction between a manufacturing process and a service process. In a lot of cases, they are easy to define. For instance, building a car that comes out is quite clearly a good, a durable good, and is a manufacturing process. But where does something like a hamburger fit in? So is McDonald's a service, or is it a durable good? That's one of the finer points that you can get into when talking about processes. Internally, McDonald's has processes that create a hamburger, but I believe the service of food service industry, it is not a durable good, it is consumed. So it's somewhere in the gray middle. Another thing that needs to be considered when talking about operations is supply chain. I don't want to get into too much detail in this because it could take a long time. Read through the book and the slides on this. You'll see that the supply chain is all about managing where inputs come from and how inputs get to your customers, and everything in between. One thing I will say, that the core processes deliver value to external customers. Okay, support processes can deliver value to internal customers. So for example, a support process is, we talked about human resources, where it fits in. Let's talk about accounting. Accounting gives numbers to the marketing group and is a support process. The end point for manufacturing that delivers the car to a customer, that's a core process. So I guess really the point of it is to say that processes are in all areas, not just operations. So there are processes that take place in everything. HR, accounting, IT, legal departments, everything. So the supply chain is basically processes that are internal and external. And they create a product that is consumed by customers. So that is your supply chain management. So next, I just want to talk a little bit about strategy, operations strategy, and how it fits in this whole thing. Basically, operations strategy has to come from the corporate strategy. So the corporation is going to say what you do. It is going to tell you what your core competencies are and set priorities, all kinds of stuff. That is going to feed into the operations strategy. Also feeding into the operations strategy is an analysis of a market. And this is where I mentioned priorities, your competitive priorities. Okay, there's going to be some more on that in chapter 2. And new services, all of these things all come from the corporate strategy and feed into the operations strategy. And then what does the operations strategy do? Well, the operations strategy then comes into how you manage your process. Okay, it's all going to be determined by your operations strategy and how you manage your supply chain. Now, competitive priorities and then competitive capabilities. So what can you do? How much output can your factory make? When we look, then we will see whether there is a performance gap. Again, there's a little bit more on this in chapter 2. You know, is the demand for your product 10,000 units, but your factory can only produce 2,000? So if there is a performance gap, you want to go right back to your operations strategy and adjust it. If there isn't, you go back to your corporate strategy. Figure out what's going on, where to get better. Check out the table on page 12 and examples on page 15 and 16 to see about competitive priorities and competitive capabilities and the difference between each. Here we do have competitive priorities. There are 9 in the book. It's good to know those 9. Just saying. They do fit into categories. And table 1.3 on page 12, which I just mentioned, has a very good definition for all of those. Okay. And table 1.5, again, talking about the performance gap, it also shows the link back to strategy. Okay. So next up in that chapter is the trends, something to know about trends. Well, I don't think any of this is you know, too challenging. I think some of these you could guess. I'll talk a little bit about them. I want to say that out of our 10 chapters that we're doing in the book, 6 of them are about process management. So to say trends, one of the things that's going to be big is productivity. So increasing productivity, that's what it's really all about, increasing productivity and how to do that in a sustainable fashion. Another trend in operations managers is the globalization. How do you deal with a global workforce, which also plays into workforce diversity? So, you know, you have to make a product and decide how far and wide you are going to sell that product. There is also a lot of concern nowadays about the environment, and any project that has an environmental impact probably has to do a full environmental assessment. And another one that I think has been a bigger driver maybe in the past 20-25 years than in any time in history is the rate of change. Our environment, our workplace, everything is undergoing a rapid rate of change now, I believe due to technology and technological advances. But that is a trend, is how to make operations management capable of dealing with that trend. So that's it for this one. We'll move on to Supplement A and then Chapter 2 in another video.